We received an email, and this is a common situation that we're seeing across the community. I own a house in Zion. I'm a sergeant major of the U.S. Army and have proudly served for 28 years. I currently do not reside in my residence, but my son does. The reason I'm writing to you from my current duty station is my great concern pertaining to home values in the city of Zion, crime rate, and the future of the city. I bought my house in 2002 for $172,000. Checking the home values in my neighborhood last weekend, I was shocked to see the estimated value at $106,000. What is the continuous home value decline's reasons? What is the city doing to change this downward trend? What can we, the homeowners, do to improve this situation? I plan to retire within the next year or so from the military and return to Zion. I also plan to make it my retirement home and assist the community and do improvements to my house. I'm not sure anymore regarding the devastating and sad news about recent events in the city. I've deployed to 2 war zones and survived. I certainly don't want to come home and have to fear for my life. I defend our freedom, and we have everything but freedom and democracy at home these days. Now, this is probably one of many concerns that we've heard from similar issues worded different ways, but this meeting, this group, this getting together and collaborating is exactly what we need to do to address these situations. So we've had some very positive response from the representatives of this committee, and actually they already want to hit the ground running and start to come up with ideas and coming up with suggestions and ways we can help each other, which is very encouraging. But right now we want to kind of do baby steps and really make sure we prioritize what those challenges are. So I'm sorry to say 4 of you are going to hear this again in about 20 minutes, but what I'm asking to the trustees and chairman today is to have a discussion to identify those 3 challenges for the township so that we can then bring that back, present that to all the other taxing bodies, identify the commonalities that we all have, and brainstorm and really think together how we can address these situations.
Part of the issue, if I may, part of the issue, or where this started from, I think helps, is that I think it was Frank and I and Dave and Sherry were looking at the township budget, and the township tax revenue was way down simply because the property values are decreasing, and we started talking about, okay, why is this happening, and how does this affect the schools, how does this affect the city, what can we do as a city to come up with some ideas to get property values back up, and the discussion turned into, I think, was eye-opening, and maybe it's just because they've been walking on the floor for so long, but that it was eye-opening to me that there are so many things that the city will do something that has an impact on the schools. The schools can do something that would have an impact on property values, and it goes on and on and on and on. And at that point, then we decided we really need to get a bigger group together representing all the taxing bodies. And one of the points that Dave has made, and I think it's a legitimate point, often these things start from staff members. These type of collaborative efforts on taxing bodies working together. But Dave pointed out that it's really, it's the city council's job, and I think you guys did that the last budget session, to say you need to hold the levy where it is. And often, even as I was the director of the Park District, I was guilty of this, that our thoughts as administrators of, we got to grab all the cash we can so we can offer as many programs as we can. But I think those days are kind of over, and we need to, and that's where all this discussion started, and that's why we wanted to get the elected officials together and come up with different ideas. Now, from our original discussion, we talked about, what affects the schools and what affects the city, what are the major issues from the schools, from the city, from the township, from the park district, whatever. And I think we'll find that they are very, very similar. And so what we're trying to do here tonight is to try and identify the 3 things that we think the township and the city are the 3 biggest things that we need to deal with in the future. And one of the representatives from the grade school district kind of said it perfectly. He said, we're talking about the long-term financial sustainability of this town and this city. And if we don't do something, many of us are very concerned that it's not going to be a long-term sustainability, financial sustainability. So we're looking to do those things. There have been a lot of There's been a lot of talk about, well, this group doesn't like the city, they don't trust the city, and this group doesn't trust the school district. And what we've said from the start on this is that we have to forget all that. We're in a different situation, there are some new players on all the boards, and we have to start over, and we think we have to really start focusing on working together to accomplish some of these tasks that we have, or some of the problems that we have. And that's where this discussion, hopefully we can at least come up with some things today on.
So the plan so there were 12 of us at this meeting. Beach Park School District didn't make it to the meeting, but they are 100% on board. Mary Ann DeBoer is the representative, and then one other person. But so what we had talked about was in this format, coming up with what each board feels are the top 3 issues in our community. And then going back to the group of 14 and just having a conversation, figuring out what are some things that we can begin to do right now to do that. And then from that, come back and see if we can pull together and have a full meeting with everybody and have it facilitated to move forward. So, but first we want to see if it'll work before we take it to that level. But the other thing, one is no looking backwards, and the other thing is only win-win-win solutions. You know, that we need to build trust among the taxing bodies, that we can come up with some things that everybody wins, nobody loses, and to try and find some synergies that way. So. Frank, you want to add anything to it?
You guys pretty much said it all. This was a list that we came up with from the township, right? This list we have here. I thought it was really positive. Most of my wife is on the District 6 board. She's also on this committee and has volunteered to help. And it was the first time, I think, we sat down without yelling at each other.
You and your wife?
No.
Oh.
I can collaborate on that after the meeting. I thought it went really well. As those over there know, I was the most skeptical. I really was, and it really came together, at least with the 2 meetings we did.
It's got a long way to go, but I'm very positive. And I'll just throw out some things here, and you know, Dave, you've been to all these meetings too. I guess the problems that I see from the city's perspective,
Wait. Can we just do it from the township perspective, and you guys can talk about the city
perspective later? And I guess a lot of these for me are similar. I don't think that we can have the same township and city ones. If we don't want to do that, but we're asked to do more services with less revenue. And how do we solve that problem? And I think we're going to have to solve that problem. I think that the housing stock in Zion has to be addressed, and I put under that the proliferation and increase in rental units, the proliferation in vacant homes and foreclosed homes, the loss of property value that we're seeing, and the amount of Section 8 housing that we have in the community. I think are all impacting our housing stock. And then I also believe, I'm not sure how, if this is a township problem or if this is just outside of that realm, but I think people move to a community, the 2 issues that they look at most are the schools, quality of schools, and safety. And I don't know if safety is a challenge. I think there's a perception, even according to that letter, that safety is a challenge, but I don't really know if our crime rate is any worse than it was 2 years ago or 5 years ago, or if it's better, or how we compare to anybody surrounding us. But I think there might be a perception out there. And then the other one I would throw out is economic development, both commercial and residential. We need to do some things to increase the value. Those are mine.
To take it a little bit, you know, one of the things that I sat down with my team and you know, they said the biggest issue is that there's no access to jobs. There's no money because there's no local businesses hiring. And it's a catch-22 because of poverty. Many residents don't have the transportation to get to job training. Without job training and jobs, they can't earn the income to acquire transportation to get to those jobs and job training. Without job training, we have a large portion of uneducated, untrained workforce, which causes difficulty attracting businesses to our community. So it's one of those loops that it's like, okay, where do you even begin to solve it, but until we just are willing to say, okay, that's one of the issues, you know, we can't even begin to do that. And it's nothing that the township can fix, it's nothing that the city can fix, it's something that collaboratively we would have to all work together to come up with some solutions. So, and then the other ones, I gave you guys a list of the different things that we came up with, and boiling it down to 3 in 5 minutes, it will be a miracle, but if we can at least try to do that. I also brought up the housing. Communication, involvement, and pride were a huge one that we talked about. Lack of community involvement, lack of parental involvement. Kids are out on the streets late at night, not involved in solutions when dealing with police, although that's a city issue. Lack of coordinated communication with the organizations and the taxing bodies, which we're addressing. Lack of communication to get information out about events to residents. Letting residents know that there's services available to help them is a huge barrier to us. Lack of neighborhood connections, and then the cultural divisions and the language barriers. And then in the safety, the gang issues and the drug issues, and not able to afford the number of police and fire that the community really needs to support it. So those were the ones that we had brainstormed. So, Lloyd, do you have any thoughts about this?
Well, I hate to give the opinion on the basis of one letter that Dave just read, that we're going to hell in a handbasket. We're not, as far as law enforcement is concerned. The particular issue that took place there was one of many things that happened during the course of a day for the law enforcement officers, but it's not overwhelming and not out of control. We've added police to our departments, and we're in the process right now of adding part-time police to our department, and we have things, I feel, pretty well under control. The perception is basically created by misinformation and a letter just like he read there. That gives the community the feeling that we're not doing what we should be doing. There's always room for improvement, but and I realize that. But also in that letter, it mentioned the value of our properties. I think everybody in town would feel better if our property values were uplifted and where they should be. But Zion is not alone in this situation as far as property values are concerned.
Well, and so if I can just cut you off really quick and ask you, what do you think the 3 biggest issues in the community, because we have 5 minutes to have this, what do you think the 3 biggest issues in the community
Well,
are?
one of the schools is one thing,
Okay.
your homes, your vacant homes,
Okay, vacant homes, good.
and that to me is your 2 biggest issues.
What would the 3rd be to you?
I don't know yet. I can't give you 3.
Okay, but that's good, that's a start.
Yeah.
Okay. Jim, do you have any thoughts, or you want to get those to me later and then we can?
That's pretty comprehensive. I'm certain that there is